The Tongass is an integral piece of this temperate rainforest that runs the length of the Pacific Northwest.
One thing people don't understand is how big southeastern Alaska is. You can have a mine, you can have timber harvest, and you can still have millions of acres of wilderness. The logging industry was so large and so dominant for this region for so long. 50 years, it was the industry.
Alaska has always been talked about as a big state. When you put Alaska draped over U.S., it goes from Florida to California. In all, the Tongass is about 17 million acres. Very little of it's been developed. It is the last remaining large intact coastal rainforest on the planet. And it's got every type of landscape you can imagine. It's one of the few places I ever worked where you go to work in the morning and you have to pay attention so something doesn't eat you.
The Tongass is different from other national forests that I worked on. It's mainly the weather, the water on the Tongass here, and we get 180 inches of rain a year. But it's got a lot of recreation, it's got a lot of wildlife. About a third of it is ice and water and so forth. A third of it is something you would call non-productive timber, and a third of it is roughly timber that you could harvest.
The earliest logging, of course, took place here in support of other industries, primarily in support of mining and fishing. You created communities by chopping down trees and building pilings and building docks.
Between those two friends, they contacted me and said they needed a draftsman, and I said I didn't want to be a draftsman. They said, well, you're good at it, and I said, I don't care. I want to be out in the woods. So they said, well, boss is calling you anyway. That was Jim Rynearson at the time, and he called me up, and after some doing, he finally convinced me that I should move up to Alaska.
After we got settled, which took about 6 weeks, I said, and we got looking around, I said, I'm here. I said, I'm not going back. You can go. But I said, I left it, and
Yeah,
we
took her 2 weeks, and she said, you can leave if you want, but I'm staying. I believe the first logging camp would have been partly here in Sitka and over in Kathleen Bay. Would have been 1959 and 1960. Well, I assisted Kurt Korthals in 7 logging camps. There was False Island and Corner Bay. We had a little job out here at the end of the road, logging Nelson Log, on Nelson Logging Road. We picked up another camp at Camp Coogan. It was called Silver Bay Log. And then we had South Armkilt Bay, Middle Armkilt Bay, those all came about. And I worked on those. We had camps at Whitestone Harbor, Freshwater Bay, Kittle Creek. A lot of camps. That's just in the north from here up. The hemlock was a better chip. They didn't, they chipped those, and I'm not a mill person, but they got better chips that worked down into the pulp off of the hemlock.
The loggers have a very dangerous job, but there's no real safe jobs out in the woods. What we do, timber cruising, laying out roads and units, you're out there sometimes miles from anybody else, by yourself usually. You're going up over some very dangerous land situations, lots of rain, lots of brush, lots of steep hills, lots of bears, what have you. There's lots of difficulties. But it gets in your blood. When it's in your blood, it's there.
You look into timber cutting, that's one of the most dangerous sports there is. You're constantly on the guard. You cannot get hurt out here.
Everything you look at, the grocery stores and all that stuff, came about as a result of the expansion of the economy of Sitka. And the largest single factor in that was the mill. When you think of a tree, it's like a human body, okay? The cellulose is the bones. And that's what we want is the bones. The resins and things, what we call extractives, are the blood. They flow around through it and they provide the nutrients to it. And the flesh of the tree that holds all the bones together is called lignin. And it's a very complex chemical structure. So when you pulp, you take out the lignin and the extractives, and you leave the cellulose. And the cellulose is then processed further and finally winds up the bale of pulp. From the standpoint of the pulping and the digester gets acid and chips and mixes them together and then cooks them at high pressure and temperature. And that becomes a mixture of the cellulose, which is fibers floating free in this, and ethanol, which is what we call red liquor. Red liquor is, at that point, is 2-3%. So then it's evaporated and burned. When you burn it, you recover the magnesium in the acid as magnesium oxide. You slake that. Then when the sulfur dioxide passes through the flues and goes into the absorption towers, and it makes acid again. And it's over 90% efficient.
There are so many things that are positive about the mill that I think about a lot of the things that, yeah, it really developed the community of Sitka began into the more modern age, I think. It was a going machine and there was a lot of excitement and a lot of drama, and as like with everything, it was certainly provided affordable incomes, your family wage jobs for many people. And it not only was at the pulp mill site, it affected the whole southeastern area, you know, with the logging industry and everything all connected there. But when I think about it, it was also, I felt, even working there for all those years, there was a social environment there as well. And it was a positive.